Hello and welcome to this video demonstrating the setup and use of compliance zones within FireMon's security intelligence platform. Network environments, well, they can be big. Therefore, it is of great benefit to have a way to segregate the many segments into more manageable portions. Though different vendor firewalls offer the ability to configure firewall zones for allowed access, FireMon also has this option available, but we use it to distinguish networks in order to use the allowed service and service risk analysis controls. These zones are used in Security Manager to define security areas of your network. There are also certain assessments that utilize the zones created in the FireMon application. In this video, we are focusing on these compliance zones, but FireMon does also detect and import firewall zone information. One example of a zone we would want configured would be for a payment card industry or PCI environment for a retail store. There are different compliance standards that need to be followed when storing, processing, and transmitting credit card holder data. FireMon has a PCI compliance report that can be run specifically for this environment, but the requirement is that the different security zones be configured first to properly assess the network policy data. The same goes for a group of segments that must all meet the same compliance requirements for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA. To properly assess the rules in place, a zone needs to be configured containing the associated segments. To see the zones configured out of the box, go to the administration page, click on FireMon Objects, and then Compliance Zones. Here we see the name, description, and number of network segments for each zone. We can then either click on the ellipsis on the right or the zone name in order to edit. There are three types of zones: System, Virtual, and Custom. We can only edit the color on a virtual zone, but the color and segments can be changed for System and Custom zones. We can add several segments into one zone, but segments can only be assigned to one zone at a time, which means if we were to configure the 10.100.20.0/24 into the internal zone and then add it to another, the newest configuration will override what was previously in place. Apart from creating custom zones, we have the ability to import a list of zones using the Import button on the top left. In the Import page, we can download a comma-separated value file, or a CSV, with the format needed for the import. So let's configure zones for the PCI report. In the Report Edit page, we see the zones that need to be configured with the proper segments, though the pre-configured zones make it easy enough to see which ones are needed, well, since PCI is in their names. Additionally, we need the internal, external, and DMZ networks. So we will go into each zone and add segments by clicking on the appropriate segments for each zone and then click the Add button in the middle. Now we can go to System, Reports, and then hit the Create button. Find the PCI report and click on it to see its many options. We see that the default zones can be changed, so we can actually use custom zones in these fields. And there you have it. The PCI report will have more accurate information because of our zone configurations. Now let's look at the HIPAA report. But wait, there is no HIPAA report. What we do have is a HIPAA assessment pre-configured in FireMon. We can go into the assessment and find out what zones this report may be needing to have more accurate, contextually correct information. Click on Compliance and Assessments, find the HIPAA Security Rule Assessment and click on it. Expand the assessment builder and make sure all the controls are visible. Do a search for zone and you'll quickly see what needs to be configured. In this case, the Electronic Physical Health Information, or EPHI zone segment is needed. This is one way you can find out what zones need to be configured. To summarize, compliance zones within FireMon are different than the zones that are automatically detected and imported from firewalls. The compliance zones can be considered as labels for address space, which make control creation and rule searches easier for disparate subnets. The three types of zones are virtual, system, and custom, and depending on the reports we're running, we can find out which zones we need to have configured in FireMon. For more information about compliance zones, see the Administration User Guide at usercenter.firemon.com.